A document in the Washington Post stated that 30 million students eat school lunch. Of those, 22 million students qualify for free or reduced lunch. According to the Urban Institute's study, only 6 out of 10 of these students have had access to these meals during COVID. Everyone goes through a rough patch at some times, especially during COVID, with families being laid off of jobs and just having low income coming in. At the high school I attended, a large portion of our students relied and qualified for free or reduced lunch, and it was the only meal they got during the day. My school was so inspired by this that they opened a food pantry on campus and would often hold food drives just to be able to give these students what they needed. School lunch should be free for students because it provides food for low-income families. It could be the only meal they eat in the day, and it ends shaming on families who can't afford food. One reason it's important to make lunch available for all students is because most students struggle financially at some point, and especially now during the pandemic. A document by the state's news service stated the USDA approved the request of the Texas Department of Agriculture to continue to serve no-cost meals to low-income students during the closures and pandemic and COVID. When my school was closed, the food pantry would open at a certain point in the day and would allow these students to do a drive-through lunch, so they would still get the food they needed even when our school wasn't open. By incorporating programs like this, it ensures that each student would get the food they needed even if we weren't open. For a large portion of students, school lunch may be the only meal they eat each day. Here I have a chart from the UCES, or the National Center of Education Statistics, and it shows each state and the number and percent of students that qualify for free or reduced lunch. In Louisiana, 66.8% of students, which is over 2/3 of our students, are eligible and rely on free or reduced lunch. A student I went to school with was required to take care of his 4 siblings because his parents were no longer in the picture, and without the free lunch, him and his 4 siblings would not have got the food they needed each day. Free school lunch is important for students like this who don't have what they need at home and rely on what they get from school to be able to provide for their family. Finally, students who aren't able to afford school lunch will often get bullied more than we see. In the article School Lunch Shaming, a Hidden Bully, the author states that when a child can't pay for their food, their tray is taken away from them and they're handed a brown bag with just a sandwich and milk in it, and some schools don't even offer this option. When this happens, the other students around them can see it happening, and they often tease the student for not being able to afford the lunch. And this is often really humiliating for the students who can't afford it. Students are never in control of their finances, it's the parents. So why should these students be punished just because the parents can't pay the price for their lunch? Overall, with a large percent of students relying on school lunch being free or reduced, school lunch should be free no matter the income. Free lunch program would help low-income students have at least 1 meal a day and would end school shaming for students who can't afford it. There's hardships in everyone's lives, and they would feel more stable to know at least their child is being fed. Growing up, I had a village raising me, whether it was my grandparents, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, but some of my friends weren't as fortunate as I was to be able to have everything they needed. And they really relied on free lunch and reduced lunch to be able to get them through the day. Remember, you don't need a cape to be a hero, all you have to do is care.